5. That's how many goals we conceded in our last away match against Palace. 4. That's how many they put past us in the one before. 3. That's how many points we're aiming for this time. 2. That's the number of teams in this London derby. 1. That's where we want to be when the final whistle blows. Ready for the countdown to kickoff? That 5-2 defeat in April still stings, doesn't it? But we're not here to dwell on the past. We're here to turn things around. In this video, we're breaking down everything you need to know about our clash with Crystal Palace. We've got our recent history against the Eagles, a peek into Palace's camp, and the latest from our own backyard. Plus, we'll dive into the tactics that could make or break this match. 2 underdogs, 1 London derby, and a whole lot of pride on the line. Let's get into it. Alright Hammers, let's take a stroll down memory lane, but fair warning, it might feel more like a walk of shame. Our recent record against Palace? Well, it's not exactly something to write home about. 1 win in 6 matches. Yeah, you heard that right. It's like we've been allergic to victory when it comes to the Eagles. But there's some excitement in all this. When West Ham and Palace clash, it's never dull. These matches have been lighting up the scoreboard like a Christmas tree. High-scoring affairs? You bet. It's like both teams forget how to defend and decide to put on a show instead. Speaking of shows, let's talk about some of the absolute worldies we've seen in this derby. Remember Andy Carroll's bicycle kick back in 2016? That goal was so beautiful, it should have been hung in the Louvre. The way he contorted his lanky body, defying gravity, and probably a few laws of physics, it was pure magic. But wait, because history has a funny way of repeating itself. Fast forward to last season, and who do we see pulling off a similar stunt? None other than Palace's wonder boy, Eberechi Eze. It's like he watched Carroll's goal and thought, hold my water bottle. His bicycle kick was almost as magical as Carroll's, proving that when it comes to this derby, the spectacular is almost expected. Last April's 5-2 drubbing at the hands of Palace was a day to forget for us West Ham fans. But even in our darkest moments, football has a way of giving us something to smile about. Enter Dean Henderson, Palace's keeper, who decided to spice things up with a comedy routine in the 89th minute. Picture this. Henderson, probably daydreaming about his post-match meal, somehow manages to fumble the ball into his own net. It was like watching a blooper reel in real time. Sure, we were already down and out, but Henderson's little gift gave us a moment of laughter in an otherwise gloomy day. Sometimes, you've got to find joy in the little things, right? But don't worry too much. Despite our recent struggles against Palace, word on the street is that the Eagles might not be soaring as high as they'd like. But you know who is soaring high? Hammer Bites. That's right. We've gained 715 subscribers in the last 28 days. But listen, I need you all to do me a favor. I need you all to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps me out massively and will help me to push out more content like this. Thanks. Our inside sources have been chirping about potential weaknesses in Palace's armour. Could this be our chance to turn the tables? Think about it. Palace's recent form isn't exactly setting the world on fire. They're coming off a 2-1 defeat to Brentford in their season opener. And you know what they say about wounded animals, they're at their most dangerous, but they're also vulnerable. So, what does this mean for us? It means opportunity is knocking. It's time to put our recent history with Palace in the rearview mirror and focus on the here and now. We've got the talent, we've got the hunger, and now we might just have the perfect moment to strike. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to know exactly what we're up against. What's been happening in the Eagles' nest? What tricks does Glasner have up his sleeve? And most importantly, how can we exploit their weaknesses? Alright, let's take a peek into the Crystal Palace camp. Their recent 2-1 defeat to Brentford has left them with ruffled feathers, and we're here to pick apart every detail. First up, the controversy that's got Palace fans raging, Eberechi Eze's disallowed free kick. Picture this, the Palace wonder boy steps up, curls in a beauty, and the crowd goes wild. But wait, what's this? The referee's waving it off. Turns out there was a foul before the ball crossed the line. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions, and to add insult to injury, Brentford went and scored shortly after. Ouch. Now let's talk tactics. Oliver Glasner, Palace's new gaffer, has brought his own flavour to Selhurst Park. He's all about structured defending and fluid midfield transitions. Sounds fancy, right? Well, it's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while riding a unicycle. Impressive when it works, but one wrong move and it all falls apart. Glasner's got this thing for a 1-3-2-5 formation during high build-up phases. It's like he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. This setup gives Palace a strong midfield presence and quick transitions. But here's the kicker, they're maintaining a high defensive line. It's a double-edged sword, folks. Great for counter-pressing, but one long ball over the top and it's squeaky bum time for Palace fans. Now let's spotlight some key Palace players. First up, the man of the moment, Eberechi Eze. This lad's got more tricks up his sleeve than a magician at a kid's party. He's the creative spark that could light up Palace's attack, or fizzle out if we play our cards right. And then there's Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's been dishing out goals for Palace like a gourmet chef at a 5-star restaurant. Our job? Crash the kitchen, swap the plates with paper ones, and watch their fancy dinner plans turn into a picnic gone wrong. But here's the thing, Hammers, despite all this talk about Palace's tactical nous and standout players, there's a sense of, well, let's call it cautious optimism around Glasner's management. It's like they've got a shiny new toy, but they're still figuring out how to use it properly. And that, my fellow Irons, is where our opportunity lies. Palace's recent performances have shown a mix of attacking fluidity and defensive vulnerabilities. It's like they're trying to juggle flaming torches while walking a tightrope, impressive when it works, but one slip and it's all going up in flames. So, what does this mean for us? It means we've got a chance to exploit those weaknesses. While Palace are busy trying to perfect their intricate tactical dance, we can catch them off balance. Their high defensive line, perfect for our pacey forwards to exploit. Their focus on fluid transitions, an opportunity for us to disrupt their rhythm and create chaos. But before we get too carried away dreaming about how we're going to dismantle Palace's grand plans, let's turn our attention to our own camp. What's brewing in the world of West Ham? What news and updates could turn the tide in our favour? Alright Hammers, time to shift our focus to our own camp. We've got some juicy updates that might just make you forget about that Palace nonsense we were just talking about. First up, let's talk about Edson Alvarez. Our Mexican maestro picked up a thigh injury during the Copa America, and his return for the Palace match is looking about as likely as me scoring a hat-trick in the Premier League. Reports are calling his potential involvement on Saturday's game a miracle, considering he hasn't even laced up his boots for training yet. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. We've got some exciting new faces ready to step up. How about Wan-Bissaka and Jean-Claire Todibo? These lads are itching to make their mark in claret and blue. Wan-Bissaka's tackles are so clean you could eat your dinner off them, and Todibo, well, he's got more potential than a lottery ticket. Now, let's talk tactics. Julian Lopetegui's got us playing a style that's more possession-based than a game of keepy-uppy. We're looking at a 4-2-3-1 formation that's all about dominating the ball and pressing like our lives depend on it. Sounds great, right? But wait, time for a reality check. We might end up seeing more of Moyes' ball than we bargained for. You know, that edge of your seat, nail-biting. Why aren't we attacking? Kind of football we've all come to know and tolerate. It's like expecting a gourmet meal and getting served a cheese sandwich. Still fills you up, but not quite what you had in mind. Let's be real for a second. Lopetegui's philosophy isn't going to magically appear overnight. It's not like we can just flip a switch and suddenly we're playing like prime Barcelona. We need to be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was a proper football team. So let's all take a deep breath and remember, good things come to those who wait, and maybe complain a little on Twitter. Now, let's break down our predicted lineup. Areola's between the sticks with Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Todibo and Emerson forming our back four. Rodriguez and Susek will likely be called on again to hold down the fort in midfield, while Paqueta takes on the number 10 role. Kudus and Bowen will be wreaking havoc on the wings, with Füllkrug leading the line up front. This setup could be just what we need to combat Palace's strengths. Their high defensive line, perfect for our pacey wingers to exploit. Their fluid midfield transitions, well, that's where our high-intensity pressing comes in. We'll be on them like a rash, giving them no time to breathe, let alone string together a few passes. But here's the real key to victory, Hammers. It's all about control. Lopetegui's teams typically average around 57 to 60% possession. That's more control than a puppet master at a marionette convention. If we can keep the ball, we can dictate the tempo. And if we dictate the tempo, we can frustrate Palace, force them into mistakes, and capitalize on their weaknesses. Remember, Lopetegui's all about tactical flexibility. He's like a chameleon in a tracksuit, adapting his strategies based on the opponent. So don't be surprised if we see some in-game tweaks to exploit Palace's vulnerabilities. So, there you have it, Hammers. We've broken down the history, peeked into Palace's camp, and laid out our game plan. It's all set for a cracking London derby. I'm feeling optimistic. My prediction, a gritty 1-0 win for the Hammers. Bowen to score maybe? What do you reckon? Drop your predictions in the comments. Let's hear your thoughts on how we'll fare against the Eagles. please hit that like and subscribe button as it helps out massively. Remember, fellow Irons, no matter what happens on the pitch, we're West Ham, we're massive, and we're ready for whatever comes our way.